Today I'm talking about the 5 best finance apps for 2021. Okay, let's face it, keeping track of your finances can be a stressful experience. However, luckily for us, there are companies and apps out there that are dedicated to making our financial lives easier and smoother. And who knows, maybe by the end of this video, you will be excited to start keeping a budget, tracking your credit score, or investing in index funds. But let's dive in. So, number 1 on the list is Monzo. Monzo is a bank that got started maybe 5-6 years ago and is an app-only bank. So there are no high street branches. It's all about the technology. Now, I first downloaded Monzo back in 2016. Back then it was actually called Mondo. It was, even before it was officially a bank, it was just a loadable debit card. So you have this card and you can transfer money from your current account onto this card and then spend it in the shop. Now, the real game changer in its early days was the fact that it would give you instant notification. So if I go down to Tesco and buy something, immediately after I'm getting a notification on my phone about how much I spent and where I spent it, I can log in, tap and say, oh, this is the groceries category, and really start playing with my budget and analyzing how I'm spending it, keeping track of it. This stands out dramatically compared to the older banks, where it would take hours, if not a day, before I could see that transaction in my app, if they even had an app back then. And so gone are the days where you wake up on a Saturday morning after a Friday night out wondering how much have I actually spent. With Monzo, it brings that regret forward and you can see how much you really did spend on those Jaeger bonds. Joking aside, it is the relentless development of powerful tools and functionality for its end users to help control their finances that has made Monzo so brilliant over the last 5-6 years, and it is why I love it. I won't go into too much detail about the functions they have, but please check out my other videos on savings tactics with Monzo if you're really interested. So secondly on the list is something a bit different. It is ClearScore. Now, ClearScore is an app that lets you track your credit score. Now, you may think that sounds really boring. What even is a credit score? Well, I thought the same until a few years ago when I actually started working for a credit card and I actually then learned its importance. If you're ever interested in buying a house and using a mortgage to get it, or buying an expensive car and having a bank loan for it, or any significant purchase where you need credit, then your credit score matters because it is a proof of how reliable you are at borrowing money and paying it back. And the long and short of it, that does sound a little bit boring, but this app, ClearScore, makes it a really pleasing, clear, understandable experience in terms of how well your credit is and your history around it. And so when you log into the app, you'll see nice illustrations of how much credit you're using, how many payments you've made and if you've missed any. Other factors like if you're on the electoral roll, like your name and address is registered. All of these factors that positively or negatively drive your credit score are made really clear to the end user. And so it can make something quite boring into quite a pleasant experience. Okay, third on the list is FreeTrade. Now, FreeTrade is essentially the UK equivalent of US's Robinhood, an app that is commission-free trading, letting you invest in stocks and shares that you all know and love. You know, we're talking about Netflix, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, all of those companies and tons more across the UK and US that you can invest in for no commission. Now, I've wanted to be investing in stocks ever since I started studying economics in high school when I was 16, 17. But around that time, these apps didn't actually exist or were only just becoming into existence. And it was really unclear in terms of how to invest. And when I did some research, trying to figure it out, you learn about stockbrokers. You then face this barrier of high amounts of commission or fees on every transaction to buy a share. And when you're a student and you haven't got that much money to invest, you don't want it all eaten away by fees. And so I never got started. Whereas this is perfect for someone getting started, wants to say, I own a share in Apple. How cool is that? The additional thing that is powerful about FreeTrade is it lets you have fractional shares. Now, to put that in perspective and what that means, let's say I want to invest in Amazon Well, one share in Amazon costs around $3,000. Okay, the typical, young adult doesn't have that amount of money lying around to just invest in one share. So fractional shares comes in and says, let's say you just had $30 that you wanted to invest. Well, you can put that in Amazon and own 0.01 shares of Amazon, and it's effectively the same. Now, I will say that FreeTrade, the app is fairly young. It's still like getting early stage investing from venture capital, and so it's constantly getting developed. But there are things like charts and graphs that leave a little to be desired in terms of the amount of insight or analysis that you can perform as an end user. And it does pale in comparison to apps like Yahoo Finance, where you can put up many charts, annual reports, quarterly earnings, related news to those stocks. So this app is all about getting your hands on companies for zero commission and getting started. Number 4 on the list is TransferWise. So if you're someone who travels abroad a lot, maybe for work or personal reasons, or you transfer money for friends or family or yourself into many different currencies, this is an app worth exploring. Its concept is about transferring money between currencies, clear, transparent, and low cost. Now, I first used TransferWise a couple of years ago because at the company I work for, you can invest in their shares as part of a scheme, but those shares are in dollars. And so when it comes to selling them and getting your money back, you have to turn those dollars into Great British pounds here in the UK. And when I first did my sale, I did it directly from the broker to my current account, and I was charged with a fairly pricey fee for exchange and an unfavorable exchange rate. Now, TransferWise comes in after I learned about it from colleagues, and I'm getting really competitive and clear exchange rates and very, very low fees for doing so. And it's all clear, so I can price it into my calculations and whether it's worth it. Whereas before, it was not a very clear process. So, long story short, if you want to change money between currencies or accounts, consider this app. And number 5, the final app for today is Nutmeg. So Nutmeg is an online investment manager seeking to make it really easy to invest in a diversified portfolio of assets, investing for the long term. Now, we've already covered an app to invest in companies, which is FreeTrade, but the way I think about Nutmeg is it's more about the longer term investment, that you put your money aside, don't think about it, and let it work for you. So Nutmeg has a range of strategies that you can invest in, but I go for the low cost fixed allocation, which means it invests in a wide range of assets and companies for a very low cost, and it doesn't do any active management. It's not trying to pick stocks, it's just investing in broad spectrum and going to make your money work for you. In fact, I even have a link with this app and Monzo where every month I get paid. I'll use Monzo's salary sorter function to move a certain amount of money to invest directly into Nutmeg, and then in it goes. It invests in the companies, I don't have to think about it, and I'm saving for retirement or the long term. If that interests you, then check out my tips for saving with Monzo video, where I go into a lot more of the detail about how I use the salary sorter and strategies around that. The final thing I'll say about Nutmeg is that there are many other companies that are online investment managers. To name a few is Vanguard, Fidelity, and these are big companies. And the one thing that Nutmeg has over them is Nutmeg has an app that is really clean, really nice UI to just see simple things like your returns, how your money is invested across countries, industries, continents, and maybe projecting the amount of money you'll return by 2040 or 2050. Okay, that's been the best 5 finance apps for 2021. If you did enjoy this video, please consider giving it a like or subscribing for more content. And if there's a particular app that struck a chord with you or you're really interested in, let me know and maybe I'll consider making a specific review on that application. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.